Nerd or Not is proudly brought to you by D12 Games. D12 Games, we've got dice.
The ultra-rare red rhino.
Because, damn it, they've got the money to spare now, don't they? Kill elephants for dice.
Here at D12 Games, we... And I know what I'm cutting. Welcome back to Nerd or Not, the official podcast of D12 Games, where they're so friendly, they'll give you back rubs. Every 20th customer. Terms and conditions apply. I'm Bob, and with me is the winner of the National St. Patrick's Day Competitive Spree Eating Contest, Corey.
Hi, and survivor of one of the aforementioned back rubs.
They're very generous and loving.
Yeah, with the scars and the and the emotional aftermath, of course.
Well, that's why they drink.
Yeah, and that's why I took part in that eating competition too, just to get my mind off of the whole ordeal.
Yeah, well, there's some talk to HR about that.
Okay, we have HR.
I'm hoping he does.
He's got HR. You're not talking about Tessie, right? She's the one that gives the back rubs.
Oh, that's not who I got it from. I got it from Chuck, the intern.
I've never met Chuck. All right, I'm going to put that down on my to-do list to not meet Chuck.
Good idea. Hey, if you're listening to us, I want to say thank you. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes. We even have a YouTube channel. Send us a shout out on
YouTube. Yeah. We've got extra on the YouTube. So given the choice between the three, gravitate towards that.
Yeah, we got some extra content on the YouTube channel that you're not going to get us on some of the other stuff. But go ahead, if you want to, say hello to us on Twitter at D12 Games. That's D and spell out the word 12. And down the line, we'll have some kind of contest where you could possibly win some gaming merch or something nice like that, depending on what kind of mood Jay's in, I guess.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I hear it's going to be nice. You got to keep listening if you want to hear it. We do want to give a shout out to @say OMG WTF for being a fan.
Say, oh my God, what the fuck?
That's one of the greatest Twitter handles I've ever seen.
Probably not spelled out for, political reasons or politeness reasons, I guess. Well,
yeah, some people are listening to us, and Jay wanted us to point out that last time we mentioned a game Kickstarter for Masmorra Dungeons of Arcadia. It had a very successful Kickstarter.
Well, I think I booted out of the park in a couple of days.
They did very well for themselves. They wanted a $60,000 goal, and they finished over $1 million. Jesus. Yeah.
What were some of the stretch goals on that?
I didn't really look into it, and I can't look it up now because, once the time runs out, they clear all that and they make a whole new page on the Kickstarter page.
That's right.
You could still make a late pledge and look and enjoy what looks like it's going to be a really awesome game. Now, I do have to say, when we first mentioned this on our last episode, they had hit their goal.
Yeah.
But after we talked about it, money went up another $400,000.
God.
I'm not saying we had any influence on this, but look at the numbers.
How can you argue against it? My question is that when you barrel down the percentages like that, we're going to take it for granted that they already did meet every single one of the stretch goals that they had posted.
That'd be a safe thing to say, yeah.
Yeah, at that point, it's exponentially higher than what they were asking for. They would have to make up new stretch goals in order to, or they're going to have one hell of a marketing campaign to see to afterwards. That's a shit ton of money.
I don't know how familiar you are with Kickstarter, but when you hit your goal and then you go over it, what does that money have to go towards something particular? I mean, where does that money go at that point?
I suppose that technically they could throw investor parties and have people come over and stock up on gin, blow, pleasurable company, as they used to say back at the turn of the century.
So they're not required to use it for anything particular because they went way, way over their goal.
I can only assume that somebody with that much exposure, it's not Soda Pop Miniatures, it's Cool Mini or not. Okay, well they still have they still have quite a bit of traction. I can only imagine that most of that money would be put towards getting better materials or better stock for the feelies and the play pieces and such that they're going to be packing in with the boxes. Like instead of making the dice out of whatever polyethylene plastic most dice manufacturers use, they could like step it up and use something denser.
Ivory.
Or yeah, ivory, yes. Shorn from the tusk of a mammoth, if you can find mammoths anymore. Maybe that's just for drilling. All that extra money is going to be used for drilling to pull up all the mammoth husk that's going to be, or mammoth tusk that's going to be necessary to make these exquisite dice. And man, these dice better make you just like shit liquid gold when you roll them.
So let's start our discussion. Obviously, we did our episode 4, and then the very next day, it seemed like all of heaven opened up. Yeah, that's one thing we gotta talk about. The Ghostbusters trailer.
The next day, the very next day.
Yeah,
we
couldn't plan it any worse than we did.
And just to like, the weight of the collective sighing from all of us after the show that we did, there was the Ghostbusters trailer and the tidal wave of reaction that elicited. There was the 3DS Earthbound,
yep.
Or the revelation that the 3DS can play console emulated games now, besides old Game Boy stuff and whatnot. It was crazy how much had happened.
Yeah, like within 2 days.
Uh-huh.
If not literally 24 hours after our last podcast up on air, some of this stuff started happening.
I'd say 24 hours as soon as you like hit submit. And then like the clock began to wind down. The nerd gods were like, these guys, fuck these guys in particular down here. We're going to tomorrow is going to be, they're going to be like dick deep in so much nerd news and revelation that it'll make that they'll be drowning in it. And the only thing that they can say as they reach for air is, nerd or not, let's make a podcast.
I like to think that one of the nerds got out there, let's call him Chester,
yes,
was looking
Chester.
down from Mount Olympus or wherever. He's just looking at, you see these guys on the Nerd or Not podcast, they're talking about some stuff. Drop a Ghostbusters trailer.
Distant relative of the Spackler.
Well, let's get into this Ghostbuster trailer. Corey,
oh please.
Let's keep this straight, and we're only going to talk about the trailer, not the movie. We have no idea if the movie's going to be good or bad, but
seeing as how it's not out yet, yeah.
Well, yes, this is true, but since they offered us this trailer, it seemed like the collective world lost their fucking minds. And on some points, I hate to say this, I kind of agree with some of them.
Uh-huh.
The Washington Post ran an article saying that if you didn't like the trailer, you must be anti-woman. Blow it out your ass, Washington Post.
Yeah, slightly disingenuous there, but that's kind of I guess their unofficial marketing arm, and not necessarily one that they might have asked for, to be honest with you. But it goes back to when the movie was first.
Oh yeah, I remember when it was first announced and they announced the cast. People lost their minds then. This can't work. This women. I was thinking it could work if you get the right writer, the right actors, everything.
As long as the lightning can still fit in a bottle, of course.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doubting any of the cast seemed good to me. I know that Paul Feig's got a lot of critics. He's the director, writer of this. Actually, is he writing the movie or is he just directing?
I couldn't tell you.
He writes most of his other movies, so yeah, I guess it'd be safe to assume that. And he makes good comedies. He doesn't make good straight up like long lasting movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like five years from now, when you talk about like the classics, nobody's going to bring up Bridesmaids. Although 5 years from now, if somebody's like talking about some of the funniest movies that they've made or that have been made in the last 20 years, Bridesmaids will probably come up. I was more partial to Spy because I kind of wanted to see how he would do with like a larger scope, and it was really funny and a lot of clever action sequences too. But it was very much like it was a sopping wet comedy, just drowning in. It chokes you with jokes. It's like the Paul White of comedies, his movies. They just like grab you by the throat and you're like, taste canvas and laugh about it.
It has its own gravitational force.
Hey, it's the Bridesmaids! And you're down for the 3 count because you're laughing so hard.
Oh,
comedy.
God.
But
the whole time I'm watching, I'm thinking, what am I watching? Is this a reboot or is it a sequel? I was very unclear, and it got really confusing. when it started off at the very beginning, the text said 30 years ago. Yeah,
yes.
4 scientists saved New York City, and then they don't acknowledge anything else the rest of the movie. I want to get into, like, step by step my problems with the trailer itself, because this trailer did not help them.
A lot of what people, I think, didn't like about the trailer also, they don't really acknowledge any sort of like paranormal phenomenon as a possibility outside of the 4 central characters.
Right. It seems like this is all new to the characters.
Like, this movie is actually in universe and connected to the first 2 movies. We'll say the first movie, that this had happened before. But everybody in the movie seems to be reacting as if it had happened the first time. They're not very clear on that.
Now, wouldn't it be funny if that's like a joke in the movie? It's like, well, we're in New York. If it's not happening in the last week, nobody cares.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be past them.
I want to break down just even how the trailer starts.
Yeah,
you hear a piano playing the original song from the from the song from the first movie. Yeah, and it's playing it really slow, one note at a time, just like Jurassic World did earlier.
Yeah, with all that very deliberate reverence that's trying to get across.
Right, and you know, I'll say the CGI does look incredible, but I hate to say this, we might be nearing a time where that's no longer a wow factor.
Honestly, I don't like the CGI. I don't have a whole lot of problem with the trailer per se. But man, as like somebody who, like a lot of people our age, or a lot of creatives our age, but Ghostbusters like pushed them to start exploring their creative, their capacity. Fucking, thank you. I'm catching the Sarah Palin disease. It's wonderful. Our capacity to sound like a dumb fuck. So, the first movie pushed a lot of our generation to explore their capacity for creativity. Either got us to learn drawing or synth, or even got us into, like, you know, studying ghosts and getting into parapsychology. For a lot of people, getting into special effects or makeup effects, etc., etc., etc. And one of the coolest things about Ghostbusters was the variance and the surprise that you got from all the ghost designs. They were, I mean, people that know about the Ghostbusters, you know, those fans, the Spurgers that go like way deep into like the roots and the background of the movie, will know that Bernie Wrightson, who's like a classic horror comic illustrator, did most of the creature designs for that film. That's why you had that wide palette of bioforms and texture and shit and shit. Yes, let's be overtly technical about it.
That's an engineering term, by the way.
You had the shit's here. All right, bring the meter. Put the bounce cards over there, way over there. You had, I mean, Slimer was his own thing. A big ball of like, he was a floating potato that was green hued and had like little spindly arms. The zombie cab driver, who's like my guy. That's my ghost from the movie. I love just like the idiosyncratic visual.
How simple and scary looking it was.
And well, how ridiculous and scary it looked. And how, like, even more to the point, you kind of wanted to know what the zombie driver was doing there.
Yeah.
Because he didn't seem like he was going to attack his own fare, did it? The guy just started screaming bloody murder because, you know, he's a high-strung New Yorker, and suddenly there's the undead taking him to the house.
You know, as long as he can get to LaGuardia on time, who cares?
Yeah. He didn't look pissed. He looked nonplussed. He's a cab driver. I want to know exactly what... I kind of hope that he was going to become a character in this movie. Like, I'll be straight with you. I think the new movie... Yeah, it should be about the zombie cab driver. But
I because this came out, it's almost old news by now. So
yeah, sure.
All we can do is offer our reviews. I can tell you that Kevin Smith made a really, really good point. Mm-hmm. That if you swapped out the ladies for male actors and they did the same actions, did the same jokes, hit the same marks, it still would have fallen just as flat.
It would not have changed a damn thing.
Yeah.
And even though now I have my own reasons for not being suspicious of the trailer itself, but that's a really good point. The comedians that they chose, the cast that they chose, are playing towards like particular strengths, and I think they're pretty good in whatever they do. Admittedly, this is my first exposure to Leslie Jones.
Yeah, there's a number of these actors I had never seen before.
I tell you what, man, I like Jones. I think I like Jones the person more than maybe the actress because of the way she's been dealing with the stuff in social media. You know, the deluge of crap. But man, a lot of noise has been made about the one scene, and I think the scene that I'm going to mention is going to be the power of Patty compels you.
Oh yeah, that
which is so effing broad. Not as just like a character interaction, but the joke itself.
Yeah. We've seen it. The joke of a head spinning around as a possessed person it has lost all meaning at this point.
Dude, do you remember Repossessed from the late 80s? It was Leslie Nielsen and Linda Blair. Yeah. And you know why that movie was gold, right? Leslie Nielsen's awesome. I don't give a shit who wants to contradict me on that, but it's Leslie Nielsen, and y'all should bow down. Secondly, the culmination of the entire movie is the exorcism scene from The Exorcist. Well, duh. I mean, that's why Linda Blair's in it. That's what the callback is. So, right. And it's being commentated by Mean Gene Okerlund.
Oh, yeah.
And the pre-governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura.
Oh,
and then because that's not enough, the envelope hasn't been pushed far enough to the satisfaction of the filmmakers. They did break down into a musical number of Mitch Ryder's Devil in the Blue Dress.
Yep. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
Yeah. So, by that point, I would say that like the Exorcist parody shark has been pretty well fucking vaulted over.
Yep.
By every single, like Fonz's entire family line has gotten on the ramp and jumped over the Exorcist, especially by this point. And I guess like when you're in the movies, you kind of like have a couple of milestones or whatever to signify. You're like, hey, I want to shoot something that's like an Exorcist movie and make fun of that. So that could have been in here. I do like the fact that they addressed possession in this movie.
Yeah, that is an interesting take. I will say that. It
was peripherally touched upon in the first and the second movies. You know, they weren't central, but, there was the Keymaster and Vince Clortho. But
yes.
they had different takes on it. And this looks like a more traditionalist take. And I want to see where they go with that.
Do you think we'll see big stone dogs running around this time?
We'll probably have a rehash of that. There's a lot of callbacks to the old movie in this, and that might be one of the ones that they left off the trailer room cutting floor. But you saw the librarian ghost again.
Yep.
A lot of slime. And then there was like the towering ghost. You saw the guy on stilts, which was a pretty creative design. I have to admit. I like seeing where the designs came from. I don't really care much for like the monochromatic palette, which kind of brings us back to the creature design talk from before.
Mm-hmm.
But that bit, you can tell that like a lot of previs was done on this. I just don't know where they got like the purple and the blues from suddenly.
I'm not against the color palette, I guess.
I know, that's nitpicking like crazy.
Yeah, I do like where some of the ghosts you could see like their ribs and their bones through the ghosts. I think that was a nice touch because so many movies have shown us ghosts between Harry Potter and like so many other movies where we've seen ghosts flying around. They got to give us something new because there's not that much new in this trailer.
Casper. Remember Casper, like when Casper came out, like all bets were off for digital actors. Especially, hey, you're going to kill Bill Pullman and turn him into a cartoon dead? That's a hell of a watermark to set.
And you spoiled it for me.
Oh, shit, you never seen that?
No, I haven't. It has not been on my top 10 list of movies I need to see.
Oh, it wasn't horrible. It was, dweeby as shit. But
I never thought it was horrible. It's like, this looks terrible. I'm not going to waste my time. It's just one of those things I never got around to seeing. It's like when somebody forced me to sit down and watch The Matrix. It's like, I don't want to see this. And he said, a really, really nice guy. Very next day, he said, here's a copy of The Matrix. Go home and watch it tonight. It's like, all right, I'll watch it just because you were so nice. Mm-hmm. Really close friend of mine at work bought it for me. Mm-hmm. Went home, I watched it. He said, so how was The Matrix? It was better than I thought.
Because what did you think it was going to be? Like just you having your testicles punched over and over again?
I thought it was going to be a lot of drug use and CGI and flippity flips and you know what? It was all that, but it wasn't horrible, which is one thing I assumed it would have been.
And here we have Bill Cosby reviewing The Matrix for us. And what did you think about this, Bill? Flippity, flippity, flap, flippity. What's with the CGI and the FBI and the CIA? Skip, scap, flippity-doo.
Yeah, have a drink.
Oh, shit, no.
So...
I'll let you take that one.
It wouldn't be fair for us to say, don't see this movie based on the trailer, but the trailer is...
No, I'm still seeing it.
Let's rate the trailer on a scale to 1 to 10. What would you give it?
The trailer itself.
I would give it a 3, a generous 3.
I'm gonna sit at a middling 3. Because I'm still gonna see the movie no matter what. It's fucking Ghostbusters. It's just that the trailer was not. I don't think the trailer did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah. It does look like they're going to have to make another trailer because they always make like 3 or 4 trailers now for movies, especially if it's a big summer blockbuster that they hope it to be.
Well, they got to get that sizzle up.
Yeah,
but that's great, and hopefully it'll feed a bit more to the people that like aren't just used to reading between the minutia lines as we are, because this is our culture and we obsess over shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we do now. I mean, you and I were talking about this earlier. This day and age with the social media, can you imagine it when we had it back in? When was the original Tim Burton Batman?
1989.
89. Now, can you imagine if we had Twitter back then and they announced Michael Keaton as
Batman?
He was going to play Batman. Everyone.
It would have. I'm pretty sure it would have been very difficult to drown out. I mean, seriously, shit. On the playground, loud enough. Seriously, people. The last thing he did before Batman at that point was Beetlejuice.
Yeah, and Mr. Mom.
Anything that had come out before then. Well, there was also there was that movie where he like played a mental patient with Peter Boyle. I forget what it is, but he did like crazy guy roles, very high energy, and at least half of Batman demands some sort of like somber stoicity. And we didn't see Michael Keaton as that. We saw the pointed eyebrows and the guy losing his shit in the squeeze and building like a dinosaur out of televisions or whatever the fuck that movie was about. We were like, hey, that's the guy that's not Mel Gibson because Mel Gibson's too expensive right now. But Keaton's always been like under the radar. Like he did the Herbie movie about God, that's like 12 years ago now.
Wow, yeah.
And then he did White Noise somewhere in between there and here. Yeah. So he was still working.
Oh, he's been constantly working. He did a movie Live from Baghdad, which was about people from either Headline News or CNN who were over in Baghdad when the war broke out. And that's basically how CNN got their big break.
I have never heard of this movie, and I'm so fucking writing it down.
Oh my God. I have it on disc. Remind me. You can watch it.
And you heard enough when your friends when it came out. And of course, if social media was around at that point, it would have been a deafening fucking roar. And it's not just because the movie's associated with any sort of like political interest or whatever. People have opinions. Nerds have strong opinions. And, well, guess fucking what? A lot of nerds got Twitter accounts.
I'm going to guess about 100%.
Yeah. And the trailer itself is what we've been given to see so far. And here's something I know about Paul Feig, or have noticed about him, is that like most of the movies that I've seen of his, I mentioned before, I was not very interested in seeing from the trailer by themselves because they kind of follow a similar pattern. The jokes are very dense, very in your face, like, you better laugh, motherfucker, like I said, Big Show style, and not the best ones. But when you see the movies, you're like, oh my God, he kept like a good 75% of the actual, like the stuff that an audience can react to in this movie out of the trailer, which is cool. But there's that school of thought that you don't want to keep the best bits in the trailer because then you have nothing to go see the movie for. But on the other hand, you're also not really doing a good job of representing what your story is about. And I think that's either a problem or a talent with Feig and how he presents his marketing materials.
But we also have to remember that some of these trailers are not done by the director and studio that makes the movie. They get some third party to make these trailers. So maybe that's what happened in this situation. I
guess. Although, like I said, it's been most of his movies up till now that follow this pattern. For the most of the ones that I remember. I think he directed The Heat also. So there was The Heat, Spy, Bridesmaids, Ghostbusters. They all just like seem to be keeping a whole lot close to the vest while giving you like the worst of what they've got in there. Man, somebody says to you, hey, do you want to be in a Ghostbusters movie? You're not going to say, let me talk to my agent. You're going to say, if my agent doesn't let me do this, motherfucker, he's fired.
Yeah. I remember that was like one of the big draws from the original Ghostbusters when they assembled the cast. Everyone's like, "Oh God, I've got to see this."
And for a lot of people, this is the same idea of a modern day comedic dream team. It's just a lot difficult for people our age to see, or at least people that we know that are our age, because they knew the originals. Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, man, a lot worse has been done with the Ghostbusters brand. The real Ghostbusters did not hit it out of the park 100% of the time. There's Ghostbusters 2, and I know people are going to part ways with me on that, but it had its moments, but it was Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, it was I would say it was about 3/4 of a good Ghostbusters movie, and then it got a little campy, goofy, weird.
Yeah. Let me see. But after the fact, this movie with these actors and this staff behind it is far and away like the least promising representation of. You can keep that in there if you want to. I don't care. It's by and far like the least insulting thing to be done to Ghostbusters. And as far as like most of the reactions that I've seen to it, they have been pretty damn extreme. Probably because a lot of them were YouTube, and a lot of YouTubers tend to play it up. But I don't see it. I don't see it getting like that raging mad or even that like crazy disappointed about it. You go and see the movie. If it ends up being not a great movie, here's something else that people keep forgetting about. They're making another Ghostbusters movie with a completely different cast that's supposed to be kind of like a companion story to this.
What?
At least it was announced. Yeah, when they first announced the Pegg movie, they said we're going to do another one later with an all-male cast. I don't know why that had to factor into anything, but yeah. And what I had been led to believe from the announcement was that it was going to be like companion Ghostbusters movies, which is why I assumed that this one was going to be like based around the idea of further franchising the Ghostbusters name or something like that, which I think would have been cool.
Like Ghostbusters of New Jersey or something like that?
Well, they're still in New York, but like most of the original guys have gone on to patent some sort of like a groundbreaking technology, or Venkman's gone on to actually be a successful talk show host instead of the post that he held in Ghostbusters 2. But yeah, like I said, we didn't get to see enough of the trailer or enough of the movie through the trailer, and I think that is very much by design. I can't write it off yet. It's fucking Ghostbusters. If there was actually a third movie, it would be my trilogy.
Yeah, well, we will have to wait and see and reserve all real judgment until we finally do get a chance to see it. But hey, now we went from one trailer, controversial trailer, to another controversial trailer.
That showed a whole lot.
Yeah, it showed a little more than I would have anticipated, unless they have something else planning. I'm talking about not the third, but the second Batman vs. Superman trailer, where they showed the giant, weird Ninja Turtle Doomsday. Now, I would say that when I saw this trailer, because I love the Death of Superman storyline, so I read a little bit about the Doomsday character.
Yeah.
When he showed up, I went from about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds of excitement to disappointment, realizing I've just seen the entire movie now.
Really? So you think that there's nothing left to spoil at all?
Unless they're doing something big, and I can only speculate that it would involve, say, Darkseid.
Probably not going to reach that far into the more distinctive iconography of comics. I think what they're not showing us a whole lot of in the trailers, at least the trailers that have been let out so far, is what Lex Luthor's up. Yeah. We know that like Superman shows up and Batman don't like it because you're in Batman's town. Doomsday shows up for some reason. And then, hey, there's Wonder Woman. Thus far, we've got a pretty complete cast of characters, but we don't know what they're doing in any one of those situations. Why is Superman in Gotham? Wait, are they in Gotham? Well, if they're not, then why is Batman in Metropolis?
Yeah.
Why the fuck is Wonder Woman there? Why is Lex Luthor Max Landis? There's so many questions that haven't been addressed, like as far as the narrative goes.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of questions.
It's just a confirmation that they're all there, and that's pretty much it.
Let me ask you this. How badly do you think DC needs this movie to succeed? I think it's going to do very well financially, but how much badly do you think they need it to succeed both financially and critically?
Honestly, I don't think they're in trouble. The Man of Steel did not do that great.
It made money, yeah.
It made money. Critically, it was kind of critically, it was a Zack Snyder movie.
I think the biggest criticism I ever heard, at least it's not Superman Returns.
It was a huge fail. It was a flop. Still, they put money towards another one, Man of Steel. And then when that one made its money back, but kind of left a lot of critics in the cold, they were like, you know what? That's good enough. Zach, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, it seemed like they ran with it.
We're going to pump your budget up 3 times. We're going to give you, 3 more characters from our storied index of very well-known iconic characters to play with. And here's Ben Affleck. Why the hell not?
You want me to make DC Avengers, don't you?
I think that at this point, now that they've got the principles established for their cinematic brand, they're going to keep trying to chase after whatever Marvel's already established for their own cinematic universes. Mm-hmm. They're in it for the competition by this point. I think it's pretty clear to see. So if this bombs,
that'd be a shocker if it does.
I don't see it bombing at all. I don't see myself seeing it, but that's another thing. If it didn't do as well as they wanted it to, maybe if it just made a little bit of its money back, that wouldn't stop them from going along with the rest of their Justice League initiative.
You know, it's funny. When Star Wars came out, I realized I had to see this really soon for 2 reasons. 1, because it's Star Wars. And 2, I didn't want anything getting spoiled for me.
Spoilers.
I'm not really feeling that with Dawn of Justice.
Oh, like you don't care what happens?
Well, no, it's like I don't think you guys could tell me, you could spoil anything for me that I didn't already know or could guess on my own.
That makes me wonder, or make me consider why they're seemingly holding a lot of plot details back within the trailers. I think there is going to be like one more big thing that they're going to reveal, but I don't believe it's going to be like, yo, here's Darkseid, or yo, here's somebody else we cast as the Joker yet again. Like if they revealed that the existence of the Green Lantern Corps, that would be like, just fucking setting off an H-bomb in your front yard.
When Batman vs. Superman comes out on DVD, that some people are speculating that it's going to come with both the theatrical and an extended cut, which would be, you could almost make it an R-rated film. And I'm thinking,
I thought they called it the R-rated cut. Like, isn't that how it was?
Well, they really can't call it the R-rated cut because the MPAA doesn't look at DVDs. So
it's just a DVD.
Yeah, so maybe they'll call it like the unclean uncut or uncut version, or
well,
I don't think they would do that, but it's a possibility. If
they weren't schmucks, they would just call it what it is, a director's cut. If they attach any mention of an R rating to it whatsoever, that would be like one of the most cynical marketing moves in a business that is like built on top of cynicism. And I'm talking about like movie advertising, not filmmaking. That's anything but. But the only reason a lot of people were like associating this with the success of Deadpool as an R-rated movie, and the James Gunn quote came out afterwards, like, you know what, Hollywood's getting the wrong idea about this. All of a sudden, they're going to start churning out like R-rated superhero movie after R-rated superhero movie, completely forgetting that Deadpool, the reason it became successful is because it was its own damn thing.
Yeah. It had, if it wanted to be honest to the source, it had to be R-rated.
And not only was it its own damn thing, not only did it have that identity, it arrived at a hell of a time. It was a very punctual sort of a look at a genre of film that's become ridiculously oversaturated, especially within the last 6 to 7 years of film manufacture. Too much pomp, too much like big idea, big mythology, sort of summer blockbuster movies, and it's like at some point you do get like worn down off of these, even if you go to see every single one and you enjoy them, you know. And Deadpool was like the tonic to that. And I think that they kind of touched upon that with Ant-Man, making a movie in a big universe but on a much smaller scale, not to like push the idea or anything. I think the way that it was actually made was also much smaller as well. But Deadpool was like, fine, we're going to do this. We're going to make this movie in a similar manner with not as many ties to something that's commodity, which is why they recast Colossus and all those other characters.
I actually liked that recasting because I thought it was obviously more true to the character. It's more true to a certain type or a certain illustration of that character. Yeah, the 90s. But every time he popped up on screen, I kept hearing baloney, ha 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 ha. And I thought he would. You know what I kept thinking was the X-Men arcade game where using your
if you do the special. That's you waking up on a good day. That's the motivational Colossus we like to call it.
Oh, what a stupid game that was. Well, we were mentioning R-rated movies. Here's one that could work. Hugh Jackman said he'd be up for a Deadpool Wolverine mix-up movie, possibly as his last run as Wolverine.
Every time he does a Wolverine movie, this time, Hugh, this time, I gotcha.
Well, I guess if they're going to keep paying me, I'd keep doing it. But there's speculation that if that would happen, they would use the Old Man Logan storyline.
He's a good Wolverine. I won't make any bones about that shit. Every single, like even in that thoroughly underwhelming X-Men Origins movie that a lot of people like to make a thing out of, and became like half the running jokes in Deadpool. Well, I bet they're glad that movie existed. He was the best thing about it, and they didn't give him a whole lot to work with at all. Now, supposedly, the Old Man Logan movie is going to be like another James Mangold thing, and fuck it, keep him directing him also, because those two work really well together. There are a lot of problems that people had with the previous Wolverine movie. I thought it was great all the way up until the ending. The Silver Samurai did not need to be there.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. The movie was on a really good pace till the very end.
I know. The thing about superhero movies is when they decide to try to fit themselves into other styles of approach. Like Deadpool did, I guess. You could use that as an example. If a very extreme one, Wolverine, or The Wolverine, was a very ground-based sort of a superhero movie. Yeah, sure, there were some pretty bombastic action scenes, as well as like the ridiculous, or the typical smattering of goofy-ass super science that seems to be like, the seasoning of most of these films, even at their most conservative. And that they were able to make a lot of stuff that came from the Frank Miller Wolverine. Look, if not believable, then tangible. Man, keep going with that pace. Just next time, take another look at the script before you stick a really old man inside of a giant mechanized suit of armor. After everything that had happened in that movie that had to do with mobsters and, at its most absurd, hyper acrobatic assassins. Oh, a fucking mech. Oh, and the lizard lady was a little much too, but they didn't really let her out until the end also. All the ridiculousness was at the end. That's somebody on the crew, somebody in the script said, I don't know, and the giant bucket of ridiculousness just dumped on everybody's heads. And if you get that reference, you're fucking old. So the Old Man Logan, if they keep it as terrestrial as it sounds like, or at least as terrestrial as the original story was, and having Mangold on that, you're going to have another good flick on your hands. Bringing Deadpool into that could be interesting. I don't see it happening at all. If not, for the most part, because they're both products of Weapon X, and Deadpool would have to be about as old as Logan in that movie in order to kind of like keep the timelines from, or even keep the movie timelines from like fucking each other up. And most of all, we're being asked to believe that Olivia Munn can flip around and do all sorts of badassery like that. And apparently she's asking us to as well. Woo! Topical. Very concurrent with events.
I do my own stunts.
Thankfully, most of your stunt scenes are like...
my stunt scenes involved the thrown in the bathroom.
Yeah. Walking into work, putting your bag down on the ground, and the most that we ask out of you in terms of a truthful performance is not being pissed off at everybody that walks through your door when you're trying to do your stuff, when you're trying to do your job. And in addition to that, we're being asked to accept like the bottom of the bell curve of like garish disbelief, in that Olivia Munn can not only act, but also go toe-to-toe with any superpowered mutant in the movie.
Yeah.
And apparently herself trying to get us to believe that she does her own stunts as well. Not to bring that big fat elephant into the room and put him in front of everyone to see, but yeah, there it fucking is.
I guess we should clarify if no one else has heard this before.
Well, it started one day on Twitter.
And that's where everything begins.
Yeah, that's where everything starts. Apparently she put out a photo of herself with her stunt doubles. It was her and I forget who. I think it was the actor that played Archangel. They're stunt doubles in the same picture. And then a little bit later, she gives an interview where she states on the record that she did all of her own stunts.
All of them?
All of them. And I tried to look. I tried to see, okay, well, maybe she was like misquoted or something, because that's not only a ballsy thing to say,
right?
But given the nature of the movie business and how tribal the different service communities can be within movie making, you don't say that about stunt people, fucking ever.
Yeah.
There's just you're brought in as an actor in order to provide presence or flesh out a character for the camera. Of course, everyone knows what a fucking actor does, but normally they don't do stunts. Stunts, however, in roles like this are still very much an integral part of filling in whatever the actor wasn't able to fill out themselves. And they do so at like great physical and personal cost.
It's a trained professional, and that's what they're trained to do.
It's a priceless profession in Hollywood. Not all actors are going to be able to either because of physical limitations or mental limitations or whatever undertake that sort of a function within a movie set. Some do. Stephen Amell does.
Yeah, there are some actors who do all their stunts, and there are some actors who say, "All right, I'm going to step out, bring in the stunt guy." Yeah.
But even like somebody who gets as physical as Amell does is like, yeah, well, some of the bigger set pieces are still done by somebody else. I just try to do the parkour and the salmon thing, whatever the hell that is. And that's just him though. He's kind of like a golden boy within that sort of a business, which is cool. You want nicer people to work with. You want nicer people to fill out a business that was formerly known for like fucking avarice and coke binges over at the Brown Derby and shit. But Olivia Munn apparently just came out in this interview and said, yeah, I do all my own stunts. What's a stunt person? I don't know. Wasn't misquoted. She fucking said that.
Which doesn't make any sense because it's not like she's some ditz actress. She's had experience with TV before, so especially interviewing TV. Mm-hmm. So she knows the game. She knows that anything she says can be cross-referenced.
Fucking perplexing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's, it's good ink to say, yeah, I do my own stunts, but it's even worse ink if you say that and it's not true.
I really have to wonder what her priorities are, to be thinking that, in a bid for a decent byline, she'd be willing to throw coworkers under the fucking bus in order to get it.
And you know what? She strikes me as somebody who's done that before, pretty much all of her career, maybe.
That's how the story got out. Apparently, the guy that either produced or directed or created Gears of War, Cliff Bleszinski, heard about this, got wind of it, went on a tirade on Twitter one day and said, yeah, she does shit like that, and spent a good fucking 20, 25 tweets illustrating the various ways that other people that he knew in the industry that had worked with her had gotten screwed over by her. And this was a lot of people from G4 back when that was still alive, as well as anybody else that had been maybe interviewed her that's within the video game development industry and such. So he goes up in this tirade. Oh, she's not a good person. She's kind of a hoser. Throws people under the Greyhound with gleeful abandon, and that's just what she does. Most of that I would consider to be hearsay. It's Cliffy B. He's got kind of extreme opinions, and people kind of expect that out of him nowadays.
But there's a silver lining to it, huh?
The silver lining is that she fucking apologizes sometime soon. She needs to. Because not only does she commit a social sin within the Hollywood ecosystem, she fucked with a union. Yeah, I mean, if she's got a good agent, great. I think for the next couple of years after this, if she doesn't say anything to address it, other than rely upon whatever.
Well, what can she say at this point?
I fucked up. She could say, "I fucked up, man." That's just about it. I mean, up till this point, she's been relying upon blog spearheads that make money out of baiting controversy to do the spin for her. Oh, you're just accusing her of being a fake geek girl and shit. Which, man, that's 2012 hot button shit right there. Nobody really cottons on to that anymore. If they do, it's out of total fucking self-sanctimony, and nobody's going to take it seriously.
I got some hell for this once.
For doing what?
I don't remember where it was, but I saw her do something, and I said, you know what? I don't think she claims to be, or not really claims, but she comes off as this, oh, I'm such a geek girl, and I said something like, I don't think she's really a geek, or I don't think she's really a nerd. And I got so much hell for this. Like, how dare you say that? You don't know her. I was called an anti-feminist, anti-woman. It's like, oh God, is that like the go-to insult now?
Pretty much, because discrediting is all you're going to have at that point. But that's kind of like, I don't know. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to barbs like that because it's from the wind tunnel public, you know. And anybody who's going to be volleying that kind of shit at you has absolutely no interest in addressing what the issue is at its core, you know. The issue here is that she went into a public forum and took credit for something that other people worked very fucking hard for. And not only that, she also kind of did it with a sort of like breeziness that indicates that she didn't really give a fuck about who's going to take her to task over it, whether they're union or not. I'll tell you right now, unions, you don't want to poke them in the belly, ever. And as far as decorum goes, if anybody from that side of the movie industry still freely associates with you of their own will, they don't read a whole lot. Because at that point, you've got a mark on you.
Yeah, she could get blackballed for this.
I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but a lot of people are going to be like, why do I have to work with this pig? I'm not doing it. This is bullshit.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking maybe the stunt union could say, it's like, okay, you want to do your own stunts? Go nuts. We're not gonna help you.
Oh yeah, no insurance bond's going to be issued to her. She's not going to be able to get work without that support. I don't know. It's stunning to me that so many people within the public eye will make faux pas like this. Mistakes. Well, even if this was a miscalculated grab at self-promotion, it can still be called, in the broadest of senses, a mistake. She did fuck up. It's just that I don't know why people can't apologize. It is maddening. People will like burn entire communities down if they have that much exposure over something stupid that they did. And all it would have taken for them to do is like, man, I'm sorry, I fucked up. I don't know where I was. I got caught up in the moment. Yeah. I'm actually being interviewed instead of being the interviewer this time. It all rushed out of me, and I said something incredibly fucking dumb.
Yeah, and that would end it right there.
I'm sorry I said it. I hope you can forgive me, and I promise I'll try to be a better coworker in the future. But instead, no, anybody who criticizes me is a misogynist. Man, fuck you. That's just... You are already a dick. You've evolved into Super Saiyan dickhood by that point. Because it's going to come out. It's going to come out that you did eventually say that. I mean, the facts were out there to begin with anyway. There's still enough foundation to issue a judgment off of. People know. And you're going to get some people that you don't want to know this, and they're going to find out about it. And then the consequences suddenly become very concrete. So,
well, we go to a possible fake nerd to somebody who he's becoming king of the nerds at this point. Simon Pegg.
Oh, Simon Pegg, yeah. Okay.
He's in negotiation to be in the Steven Spielberg movie Ready Player One.
All right.
This is after he's been in Star Trek and then Star Wars.
As far as like the dubious issue of cred is concerned, which is an issue that I don't like to approach all that often because I think it's all just like it's a lot of finger pointing and like it's playground fighting. You're a fake whatever. It's like, whatever. Even if they're like wearing the clothes and they don't understand what the clothes mean, there's nothing saying that we can't like bring people into the fold, you know. And start like letting them know, like, you know, all the wonderful things that there are about this subculture and whatnot. But yeah, Simon Pegg, the nerd made good, as he has described himself, being in like all these movies. He's pretty much lived out every single like playground described scenario of any elementary schooler from our generation has done. It's like he's done everything that there is to do, except maybe make a fourth Back to the Future, which that's
don't give them any ideas.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We want to do a fourth Back to the Future. Well, who are we going to get? Simon Pegg's available.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
How about Nick Frost? Is he available too?
Probably. I mean, if Simon Pegg's available. It's kind of a package deal. You know,
Can you
what
imagine
they
the
say.
two of them sitting in the DeLorean? Yeah, it would, and they'd have to make Doctor Who jokes the entire time. Oh, there's our Peter Capaldi reference for the episode.
There he is. Yep. Well, then they'd have to like visualize that one T-shirt of the DeLorean running into the TARDIS, or all three of like the DeLorean running into the TARDIS, running into the phone booth from Bill and Ted, and ran over the girl who left through time. Time travel's not safe. Don't travel through time, folks. I mean,
yeah, Marty McFly was the worst when it comes to temporal science.
Well, he was a teenager. That's not somebody you want to be like exploring theoretical physics with, especially when you can like apparently make it manifest.
Yeah, what I called it, he was temporally unethical and reckless. That's a title you don't want to carry.
I'm not going to hold it too much against him. In the movie, he's supposed to be like 15 or 16 years old. You're at that point, you don't even know if it's okay to ask somebody out by telling a crude joke yet, or by awkwardly working in mention of hypothetical commonalities into a conversation that the other person that just does not want to have any part of. There's a lot going on in a teenager's mind. Throwing him into a fucking time machine, that's like giving the Will It Blend dudes a bottle of nitroglycerin.
By the way, something I think we should start every time. Hashtag Capaldi rolls, Doc Brown.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, he'd be a shoo-in for that, wouldn't he? Especially for this realization of Back to the Future, the Anglo-centric one. Well, here's what I was going to propose as their car before we move on. One of the cabs, what are they called? Stephen Fry has one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one of those things.
So you know how last time...
No.
I'm in the middle of editing.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of editing the last episode we did, and some of this stuff starts breaking in. Here we got something that actually came down a few hours before we started recording this.
And what is that?
And that's Paramount Studios dropping its U.S. distribution rights for the animated The Little Prince movie.
About a week before it was supposed to come out, right?
Yeah, less than a
week. What the fuck, Paramount? You had already spent the money on marketing and publishing. Why are you jettisoning this?
It's the most baffling thing. I'm trying to figure out why they dropped it. It can't be because they think it's going to do bad. I've seen a lot of internet buzz about this. The trailer is pretty wicked.
And this is actually the first time I've heard of it with you telling me.
You should go. I'll put a link for the trailer in wherever you're listening to this. The trailer's pretty cool. It's sweet. It's like kind of like paper mache animated. It's probably not even that. It's really hard to describe, but it's really well done.
Stop motion style? Did they kind of like fake it like a Lego Movie and Peanuts did?
It's hard to tell because I really don't want to say one or the other. You probably could tell immediately when seeing it. I'm a little more lazy-eyed when it comes to stuff like that.
It's cool to know. I mean, I wish I'd heard about this before. I mean, this was like one of the classic animated shorts. If you had like Nickelodeon back in the day, you probably did see it.
Oh yeah.
But it was a French animated cartoon, if I remember correctly. Oh, and then they did an anime version. I think I saw both.
Well, I can tell you there was a live action one where I don't know how familiar you are with the story, but on the little planet the prince lives, he has a fox that he domesticated, and the fox in that live action movie was played by Gene Wilder.
Get the fuck out of here. That might have frightened me a little bit as a child.
And he had like a little singing session where he tells the prince how to domesticate me. And
Wilder cannot sing ever again. Not after Willy Wonka. That should be written into like constitutional bylaws that if Wilder wants to remain a naturalized citizen of the United States, he can never utter a tone. There's no earthly... No, shut up.
No,
we're deporting you now.
Well, this movie was made actually last year, and it was released overseas, so Paramount wanted to do the American release for it. And it had a lot of buzz about it, so again, dropping it makes absolutely no sense to me. Luckily, Netflix is earning their $9 a month from me. They picked it up, and between Daredevil and this and everything else they've done over the last year, I think they're doing some good stuff.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Netflix is kind of becoming like the graveyard of lost Hollywood causes recently. With them they picked up the interview afterwards, and they got a lot of good buzz off of that and shit, which is fine because it's also a good place to kind of look to to maybe resuscitate resuscitate properties that look to be lost to the ethers, you know. And there's rumors of Young Justice coming back. We talked about that last week.
Yep.
And they did bring back Arrested Development, which was like maybe 6 to 7 years after it went off the air.
Now, I didn't watch the Netflix version. Is it any good? Do you know?
I haven't seen any of it. It's kind of not my wheelhouse for the most part. I know that it's a lot of the single camera humor from awkward situations, sort of a stuff that like pushed The Office and whatever the fuck else.
Yeah.
And I heard, I heard that it was great, but whatever. We all hear that it's fucking great. But if you're a fan of the show, that must have been like, you know, a kiss from Hera getting that news. Like, ooh, can you imagine? So, okay, just, you know how some people are about Firefly.
Yeah, I was just about to say, imagine Netflix announce they'll do a whole season.
Exactly. And that's been like a long-standing rumor as well, that Netflix is going to continue.
It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Let it go, brown coats. It's not happening.
Because Whedon is so embittered by the fact that it had to end in the circumstances that it did. I believe he kind of half blames the viewership for not being there. Which is why it's...
Oh, no, I put all the blame on Fox. Fox screwed that up.
Fox at that point was a bunch of, you know, blowhards, of course. They were the ones that tanked Titus. Fucking The Tick. Everyone remembers The Tick. It's in kind of hushed tones, but like, hey, you remember when the Tick was live action and fucking Brock Sampson was actually the lead? It was crazy, and directed by Barry Sonnenfeld and all this shit. What?
Seems like the only thing Fox hasn't screwed up is The X-Files, Married with Children, and The Simpsons.
They don't have to fuck up The X-Files when Chris Carter can do that by his lonesome. Definitely boned by Fox. Like, I didn't even know it existed until it was canceled. That's just kind of the story with a lot of TV shows that I've grown fond of on Netflix and Hulu.
Meanwhile, Fox is like, no, don't worry about that. Just watch another Prison Break.
Oh, the funny thing is like I hear Prison Break's pretty good too. Mostly, Jay's a big fan of that.
That one only lasted a season, didn't it?
It lasted 3, 4. It wrapped up. It ended how it wanted to end on its own terms.
Oh, okay.
But they're thinking about bringing that back too. Oddly enough, which is going to be kind of weird to watch after having seen so many episodes of The Flash. Hey, that's Captain Cold and Heatwave. I guess they made up. Well, all right. And The Tick's going to be brought back for Amazon, too, just not with Patrick Warburton.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Here's how I feel about it. Because you know I'm going to fucking say something. Seriously, God, you're going to have to edit the crap out of this. They already did a cartoon. They already did The Tick as a sitcom, which worked out. I think I'd like to see them take this in the hour-long action-adventure format that, like, is become sort of like a de rigueur of other superhero properties. Except this kind of does it in a Deadpool Ant-Man sort of a way that takes the piss out of it full on. And I mean like Mel Brooks up to 11, not skirting around the Brooksness. It's just all blazing saddles, but with superheroes. And they do it for an hour. I think that's how I'd like to, I think that's the approach that I'd like to see them try.
Well, speaking of Netflix, let's get into the what you doing. Recently, I caught 2 movies that were pretty recent to Netflix, Justice League War and Son of Batman. Now,
fucking streaming's where it's at.
Yeah.
I mean, not to overstate the obvious, but I forgot about those 2.
I had been wanting to see Justice League War for a while because people keep posting stuff on Tumblr, and so I basically had seen the entire movie by the time I saw the movie.
You might as well just like pay somebody to come out of the theater and then tell you what fucking happened.
Yeah.
Or in a manner of speaking, these are on Netflix. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Justice League War, I'd also seen that at I'd walk by it at Target and it's like, oh, maybe I should buy that just so I could see if it's any good or not. Because a lot of people posted on Tumblr. It must be good. Now, it was good, but what I enjoyed more was Son of Batman. That was actually pretty wicked.
Okay, so what was the deal with this one?
Son of Batman?
Son of Batman over War. Yeah, War didn't look that interesting to me either, I have to admit. So I'm not as like...
War was interesting. It was like none of the heroes had ever heard of each... Well, they have heard of each other, but they didn't... Like, some of them thought Batman was just a myth.
Oh, like a year 1 thing.
Yeah, kind of like year 1, like nobody knew each other.
Oh, shit. You know what this is? This is like the first... This is like the initial fusillade of comics from the New 52. Where they're all kind of meeting each other.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. Because I don't read much of the new 52.
Well, neither do I, which is why I'm not really probably going to see it. But
but Son of Batman was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how closely it was to the comic, but it had a little physics breaking at the end of the movie, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
cartoons.
Yeah, but to the point where it's like, there's no way that's happening.
Oh, so it breaks the context.
Yes, but it does, because it's a comic book movie. I'm able to suspend disbelief. It's kind of like the very first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've watched it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there's no way that a life raft can plug a hole on a plane in the air.
That was a weird one.
It's like, explain something to me. Like, it's a special life raft that's sturdy, or just give me something. Just don't tell me it's a regular life raft plugging a hole.
Well, not made out of like consumer grade nylon or anything like that. I just kind of assumed that because it was S.H.I.E.L.D., that they could have some sort of I don't know, a more rugged escape apparatus on board for whatever the fuck that is that they do. I don't know. The rafting didn't really bother me. I know like a couple of people mentioned that when it first started, but I was like, yeah, we're just nerding it. But like as the years go by, people mention that almost as if it's like a film urban legend, like the obviousness of the chef at the beginning of The Hunt for Red October, something that didn't need to be there or should have been thought about more intricately or considered more carefully, things like that. And it's like, I suppose. I just didn't think that like a possibly industrial grade life raft leveling off the pressure in a plane that apparently has sophisticated environmental systems to begin with is that much of a leap of faith. But then again, it was only like an ornamental. It was like a circumstantial thing in the show, so I didn't think about it that much either. It was goofy, and it was definitely
it was, yeah.
Deus ex machina, whatever, however you say that.
Machina.
I don't know. I've seen worse.
Machinima.
Macano. Macano.
Macaroni.
Marconi.
Marconi.
Plays the bongos. Listen to the radio. Holy fucking stream of consciousness. What the hell was that?
We have verbed off the cliff and we are free falling into the abyss.
If you can, speaking of animation, pretty good DC Warner Brothers animation. Two of my favorites so far from that line have been, I think it was Supergirl, Superman.
Oh yeah, Doomsday.
Was it Doomsday?
I think it's called Doomsday.
No, there was Superman Doomsday, which is like actually Superman versus the non-troll Doomsday. This was Dark Seed. I know this is well-worn dork territory, but I still have no idea. There's nothing solid about how to pronounce that name. So
every time I've heard it pronounced on the source material, they said Dark Side. When I first saw it for years, I thought it was Dark Seed.
Okay.
Because you spell with a fucking I. Nobody fucking does that.
What if they intentionally mispronounce it with every different project they do, just to fuck with the people that watch?
I am absolutely positive that's what they did.
All right, we're on to your game, Warner Brothers. Superman, Supergirl, Dark Side, fucking smashing. And I think that was like the first example I'd ever seen of Warner Brothers taking action scenes seriously within animation. Mm-hmm. Because the choreography was too detailed to assume otherwise. And then there was, what was the other one I was going to say? Dark Knight Returns. If you haven't seen that, it's a pretty bulky undertaking. It's actually a two-part.
Which one is this?
This is the one where it takes place in the future. Batman's semi-retired. Peter Weller does the voice of him. He comes back out of retirement to take care of a gang issue that's washed over Gotham City, like a wave of scum. And then once he makes the news, it's very Frank Miller. So there's a lot of morality, navel gazing about the media and shit. Once he makes the news, the Joker, who is in an insane asylum, gets wind of it, and then he's like, oh, I have a purpose for living again, because peeing into a can wasn't enough, which I kind of thought that he's the Joker. He would like make, an undertaking out of that, It's basically that. Dark as shit. It's very dark. It's a harrowing watch. I mean, it's not so bad that it's like, cause you to look away from the screen and shit. It's still animation, which one day there's going to be a cartoon. Somebody's going to figure out how to do traditional animation and make people wince. And I'm eagerly awaiting that day. But it's good stuff. Michael Emerson from Lost played the Joker in it, who was something that I never would have pegged as a Joker-style role ever, and the guy floors it from beginning to end. So if you see that from Target, go ahead and look that shit up.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, cartoons. The thing on Netflix. Speaking of which, they also do a lot of originals. You just touched on that with Marvel a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So the thing that I've been doing, because I know we were going to get to that eventually, if I stop derailing the conversation, I'm watching 11/22/63, which are not Roger Rabbit's measurements. It is because he's very narrow on the top, and then he bells out. It's unusual. Right. Anyway, it's based off of the Stephen King book about a teacher who goes back in time and is conscripted with the task of stopping the JFK assassination.
Oh.
Now,
yeah.
Okay. Now, in order to make this into a television show, they had to add some characters and events and kind of meander a little bit.
Yeah, they had to fill it out a bit.
Which works out pretty well. The fourth episode kind of forgot what it was because one of the more fascinating things about the show is this theoretical, violently self-repairing nature of time, which if you've ever read or saw the Langoliers, if you ever saw the Langoliers, you're a lucky son of a bitch because that movie was special.
And that's being generous.
I'm serious. I will watch that shit. I mean, it's got to be maybe 2 a.m. I'm maybe 4 bottles in. We'll say that's a 4-bottle movie. But that's a genuinely good time. I mean, watching Balky from Perfect Strangers become a murderous psychopath.
You want another piece of acting trivia for that? The guy who played Dr. Arcane on Swamp Thing, the series, Mark Lindsay Chapman, that's his name.
Okay.
He was in Langoliers as the guy who's flying the plane at the end of the movie.
Yeah, he was pretty much like the principal Dudley Do-Right of the of the entire story.
Yeah.
Which is so great. That guy, I'm pretty sure that the community theater he used to do was smashing stuff. But his acting couldn't hold up a doozer structure. I'm sorry, Mark Lindsay Chapman. If he ever listens to this podcast. If somebody gets wind of us talking smack about his acting way back in the day when he was given really loosey-goosey direction and not a whole lot of a budget to work with, don't put that on your resume, man. I'm pretty sure you've done better stuff like Swamp Thing. Stick with Swamp Thing.
He was in Titanic.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he what sunk the ship?
He was actually the guy who points out the iceberg.
Okay, points out the iceberg.
Yeah.
Instead of is the iceberg.
Right. You want me to make you feel like shit real quick?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I've met this guy a couple of times. He's a real sweetheart.
And he's probably the nicest dude on the planet. I fucking knew it. Yeah, that's how it always goes. It's people that you dig are huge fucking monsters, or just they have no couth whatsoever. And the people who work the hardest against all odds, just you don't want to say anything, but you do because it comes naturally. If you're an asshole, which I definitely am, apparently. So I'm sorry. We're talking about this other Stephen King thing. So. Right. One of the cool things about King's theory of time travel is that the past tries to rectify itself in outlandishly violent ways. In one episode, he's walking somewhere. He tries to call his dad in another city. He doesn't get anything but very strange and alien sounding garbled language. He leaves the phone booth, but then has second thoughts, walks back to the phone booth. Suddenly, a fucking car runs over the phone booth just as he was about to get into it. And then, ominously, he goes over to see if the accident victim's okay. And she's like, "You're not supposed to be here." Oh. And then points like Donald Sutherland.
Was she Bela Lugosi?
No. And she was not too clear upon whether or not somebody with a hook for a hand had caused her car accident. He had a hook for a hand. I don't know. That's the one urban legend that people always stick with. They never go with the guy who had an ass for an ass.
I don't remember hearing that one around the campfire. Gather round, kids. Have you heard of the man who had an ass for an ass?
That's generally because if the campfire storytelling gets to that point, it's because the camp master is in his fucking bunk and it's everybody else now.
Everyone's scratching their heads like, what is he talking about? No, he had a donkey for an ass.
God damn it, this is so random.
Oh my God.
It just started a couple of months ago. It's pretty cool. Pretty neat cast in it. James Franco. Actually, I think he's pretty much like, unless you're like big into character actors, Kevin J. O'Connor's in it. He plays like this creepy, not quite supernatural background character or a set dressing character that Stephen King loves so very much. I don't know. It's a new thing even for King, man. It's good because I know he like tries to get heavy-handed with politics from time to time, but it's usually like to flesh out where his characters stand in relation to each other. Typically, like an Insomnia, the abortion stuff. This was written around when there was like killings at abortion clinics, from
right, yeah,
protesters and shit. And he decided to use that to kind of sublimate the negative element of his book. So like all the bad guys at the end, at the the penultimate scene of the book, they're all in an abortion clinic and they start slaughtering everybody because they're crazy and they were touched by these otherworldly forces. If they get rid of that heavy-handed shit, that would be pretty cool. That would be a pretty cool movie. There's a lot of rich imagery in it. But this was him taking politics. This was him taking political events as kind of like an engineering entity to things that happen, not in the future, but things that happen eventually throughout the course of the story, and approaching them. Yeah, characters do have socio-political bents in them, but they don't scum it. You know what I'm saying? Like Lee Harvey Oswald is crazy, but his political delineations are not what you'd expect them to be. And I thought that was different for King, and I thought it was a pretty innovative usage of socio-political mechanics in order to explore, highfalutin ideas like destiny, what causes destiny, if it's associated with like Philip K. Dick style ideas, or if it is stuff that we have total control over. I think I like the bigger ideas about it more. There's a lot of good actors in it. I already mentioned this. Even the ones I don't know are fucking mind blowing. Like the guy that plays Johnny Clayton. I guess he was on Grey's Anatomy or something. Dude, that is a new kind of crazy. That's like, if more people were seeing this, they'd be talking about this guy like they talk about Heath Ledger when he played the Joker. It's that good. So yeah, that's what I've been watching. It's five episodes in. There's not a whole lot of an investment if you're new to it.
It's a miniseries, right?
It's a miniseries, and it's a finite miniseries. So as far as I know, it's going to be ending after this one and only season. And since I don't have any more Lupin to watch, today was the last day for Lupin. It's gone forever. I like that to come home to.
I'm all sad now because Lupin's over.
Well, here's the cool thing. The cast of the Genion voice cast from like way back in the day, the really high-pitched Lupin, that dude, they're getting back together to provide the VO for the domesticated release of the series.
Oh, for the English dub?
For the English dub, yes.
Nice.
I will definitely watch it again for that. Those guys are awesome. Like I like a lot of the other voice actors that have taken over the Lupin reins from time to time, but those are the guys that like I first saw Lupin do. So they're like my cast, and it's such a cool fucking thing to see them back together. But time goes on, and TV isn't everything.
All right, that is it for this episode of Nerd or Not. Jay, we haven't explained why he's not here, and
he's a C2E2 this week.
Oh, that's right.
He's
doing research.
He's living the city life for at least a couple of days, and I am so effing jealous. Chicago, man, what a town.
Yeah. So again, if you want to listen to our podcast, you can find us on Podbean. You can find us on iTunes, and we also redistribute this podcast with some video footage onto obviously YouTube. We also put some extra content on YouTube. We started doing that. That's
right. Yeah, the gaming stuff that we started doing. We're kind of doubling up on doing let's plays of. For now, we're keeping it like lesser known games, stuff that's kind of bite sized, experimental. I don't. The thing about using a loaded term like that is people are like, that's not experimental enough for me. It's like, well, our first game was about I think an arm and appendageless fetus thing that propels itself by vomiting and using the propulsion.
Spewer,
right. And we did a second one of Nightfall, which if you're a fan of Super House of Dead Ninjas, you get to see that development studio's first game.
That was an interesting game.
Interesting hybrid of RPG and puzzles. It was pretty cool. And a fuckload of fun to tape and do those commentaries. So
yeah, I enjoyed them.
I use
I
that
hope
as
you guys enjoy them too.
Yeah. So motivate me to do more of my own Let's Plays, get my ass up off the floor for that.
So if you want to check those out and subscribe, because we got some more coming down the line. You probably don't want to miss those as well.
Please do.
If you enjoyed anything else we've done.
Yeah.
Next time, we'll probably go into more depth. If you notice, we've taken the trivia portion, we put that to the side for a bit because well, first off, Jay's not here.
Because I kept killing you guys.
Yeah, you and Jay have kicked my ass every single time.
We're the uncompromising vice of victory.
So I'm not trying to be bitter and say let's put a stop to that. We're trying some other stuff.
So bitter.
Yeah. So one thing we're going to try to do is our last podcast of every month, we're going to look at movies. Days. Okay. Getting back to my point.
Yes.
The last podcast of every month, we're going to look at the upcoming movies for the following month. So next podcast, we'll look at the movies coming out in April. We'll give our thoughts about them and everything about that.
Or any incoming movie news we might be privy to.
Yep, we will definitely be hitting as much of that as we can. Hey, if you want to, catch us on the Twitter. That's at D12Games. Spell out the word 12, and you will get in touch with us. If you want to keep the conversation going in any way.
You'll find one of the least angry spots on Twitter, so we'll be pretty easy to spot.
And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Again, I am Bob.
I'm Corey. Hi. Wait, bye.
I don't think we should probably just end it right there.
Yeah.